So let's take a look. I have my document up. Perfect. I'm going to look at one. Trying to get past that. Come on. Wasting time, partner. Gosh, let's take a look at this.
That's one of the better printers in the league. Andrew Holiday.
Behind the back on the run.
And LeBron is one of those guys, when he gets a full head of steam, it's a wrap.
Right, so let me just go back. I just want to look at that one possession. So let's back up all the way to the beginning of that one. And let's go a little bit slower. So this is, let me just put this in here. All right, so this is, video is Best of Jelly Layups 2019-20 NBA season, and looks like it was uploaded April 9th, 2020. Okay, so what do I see when I'm looking at this? All right, so let me just slow this down because it'll give me an opportunity to see things that I wouldn't normally see. So let's go to 0.5, which is still ridiculously slow. All right, so I'm just going to focus on LeBron James right now. Well, that still feels a little too fast. I know. Okay, so dribble the basketball. He stops, changes behind that. Let's turn the volume down. So right there, if we're talking about a drill, a very good drill would be someone getting the ball at half court and going from to about the slot, and he's taking, I don't even know, let me take a look. He's going back up. All right, so we got how many dribbles inside the half court? 1, 2, almost, that's basically a travel, but he's got 2 dribbles inside the half court. So you can easily turn that into a drill where you're going on driving to the basket from half court to the slot, 2 dribbles max, boom, and you can go behind the back if you wanted to start off with. And this is a reverse finish, but you don't necessarily have to go with a reverse finish. But you can also you can finish any way you want to. You can finish with some sort of teardrop push shot. You can finish with a high layup off the backboard. I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter, but it's just from there, you definitely want to do something like that's a drill in itself. All right. So let me just make sure that 2 dribbles from half court, finish with a reverse layup, and then I'll say, and 2, it says trebles, 2 dribbles from half court through slot. Finish with a reverse layup. So that's easily a basketball drill. I'm too far ahead of myself. I'm okay with staying with this one drill on this one position. Now, again, with this drill, his head is up the whole time. So let me just go through this one time. Look at his head up, head up, head up. Even when he changes direction, head goes down, bam. So it's hard to sell that on, another athlete. If they see LeBron James, he puts his head down. Yeah, it's hard to even, it may be hard to convince them otherwise, but you don't necessarily know that for sure. So it's crossing. And then, so what is he doing with the defender? Is there anything he's doing defender-wise? Well, I think once he gets the defender to commit, that's when he actually makes his move. And it looks like it's either the defender is going in that direction. Yep, he's going in the direction of where the ball is, and then he changes direction. So you can easily, and I say easily, you might be able to create some sort of warm-up drill where you're getting people to initiate a dribbling action, because so often, you know, in dribbling drills, you're not really reacting to the to a person or to some kind of outside stimulus. You're just making drills, or you're initiating the drills arbitrarily, and there's no timing aspect to it. So whatever drill, if we're talking about a dribbling drill, doesn't necessarily have to be that one where you're going behind your back. But I'm going to record this. Dribbling drills need some sort of stimulus so that the ball handler has something to react to, and it'll translate better to the game. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is not, going back again, worst thing you can do is perform some kind of dribbling drill in which you have nothing to base your dribbling on. Yes, you can have some form of predetermined dribbling action, but when the game comes, you have a fraction of a second to make a decision. And so if you can, prepare yourself even just psychologically for that to happen, it'll be better. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And this is a form of conditioning too. You can have somebody, you can literally, let me just record this, but let me go back up, period. This drill can be used for conditioning as well. You can have the person repeat the drill because they control the ball and it's a layup. So they're more likely to just be able to catch it and go. And if you wanted to do it for the whole team, if you only had one court, you could just start at half court, have 4 people going in one direction in one slot, or lined up for one slot on the right-hand side of the basket and one on the left-hand side of the basket. I'm recording that. I didn't want to do that. But you can have somebody record, you can have them go start on the slot on this side and all go in a line, right? And then they can return back to that side, or they can go to the opposite side. It doesn't really matter. But you'd have 4 here, 4 there, right? That's 8. And you can have another 4 here and another 4 there, depending on how many you have on your team. If you have 12, you can go 3 in this direction on this court, and you can have 3 and 3 going in the opposite direction on that court. And you can just do that continuously. And you can say, hey, I want you to do, I don't know, I want you to do 25 layups. I want you to do 25 layups on this side. That might be a bit much. I'd say, let's say 15 or 10. So 10 in this slot, 10 in this slot, 10 in that slot, 10 in that slot. You could do it for time and then check for, you do it for time and you can check for percentages. In theory, they should make all of them. And you can track how long it took them to make it. That way you can either take off time or just see if they're on par with where they are. If they're under par or over, that'll tell you what you need to do. If they're over, that means they may be winded, they just may be checked out. If they're under, they just may be getting after it. Who knows? But that's another way that you can just kind of incorporate some form of conditioning into that. From a defensive perspective, because I like to look at the defensive side of things, let's see, defensive. From a defensive perspective, you can prepare that person. So this is Holiday. You can prepare him by saying, okay, you jump to that ball, you jump to that side. Okay, now you have to recover, right? So now he's going from, I just committed or overcommitted to the right side. He throws it behind his back. Now my job is to make that shot difficult and not foul, period. And you can just create scenarios in which that person overcommits, and the goal is not necessarily to block the shot. I think that's the worst thing you can do. The goal should be, I touch my nose. The goal should be to make the shot difficult, to stay around that person long enough to make that shot more difficult, become some form of a wall or barrier in some way to just distract them or whatever to make it more difficult. I keep saying difficult, but yeah. So you can work on drills like that. And so you can do, I don't know what I would do though. I'm trying to think of how I would go about it. Like this is a great example. And I guess what you could do is start at the different lane lines along the 3-point line and do it in that way. You can start with a deficit, so you can start behind that person. You just have to get back into the game. You have to get back into the play. So sometimes you'll do it like there'll be like a drop ball conversion, or where the full team, second and first team, are a lot lined up along this area closer to the baseline, and you throw one ball to a person with the ball, and then that person that's defending the ball handler will touch the baseline. So now technically behind. Well, break that part down and just say, okay, you're behind now, but not start, at the other end of the court. You start probably closer to half court. You have almost no room for error. So that might be a helpful way of preparing that defender for those scenarios. And it's good conditioning too. So if you're going to do it, you can have the whole team do it. Now the hard part is, how do you do it in the context of the whole team? Because you'll have some people standing around. So I don't know how I would quite do that. Maybe you can have groups. I mean, if you have 12 players, you get 6 on this side, 6 on the other side of the court. I mean, it could work, because what I'm worrying about is like the amount of rest time. You don't need that much rest time, especially the closer you get to the season. The closer you get to the season, the less rest you need, because you do need to prepare your body and your energy systems to be able to deal with the demand of the game. So in reality, if you can just get the minimum amount of people so that you're just continuously going, I think that might help. And you can have them all line up on this side, right? And then they'll be in pairs. That could work. I don't know though. I'm just thinking like, all right, so if I had people lined up here and that person was at a deficit, yeah, I suppose that would work. I mean, no, I wouldn't have them lined up at the 3-point line. I would have them lined up closer to the half court. And you can even start with that person like 2 feet behind them. So instead of being like, this far of a distance, you would just start with them maybe about 2 feet of distance away, and they just have to get back into the play. And that's one way to do it. And as a defender, you have some options. You could, flick the ball from behind them. That's an option. But as a coach, what I would probably try to do is to have them not foul as much as possible, and just try to emphasize not fouling. And maybe you can create some kind of incentive not to foul. So like if you touch the ball, I don't know, I mean, that may not be the best incentive, but maybe, I don't know, if they miss the shot, I mean, you don't really control. I mean, well, you're at a deficit anyway, so like, yeah, maybe you can give them extra points if they do miss the shot. I mean, that's a pretty good option, I think, personally, as a defender. So it's more pressure on the offense. They've already got the advantage, so they should probably have more pressure on them anyway. So that makes perfect sense. I would probably go about it that way. If we're talking about conditioning, like let's look at the footwork. So that's something I want to look at now. So I already talked about footwork in the sense that they're going, this individual from a conditioning standpoint is taking 2 dribbles inside. So like they have to take very long strides. But let me just look if there's any. And then there's like, and in this moment between here and here, there's an increased frequency of foot contacts in the ground. He's not necessarily, now here you get more strides. Once he turns it behind the back, he's got more strides because there's 1 dribble inside. But as he's approaching that person, in this case, Drew Holiday, there's an increase in frequency of his footsteps. So long strides, now there's smaller strides, more frequency, bam, and then long step, bam. So if I'm thinking about a drill from a conditioning standpoint, you don't need a basketball. It would be maybe you have some cones lined up, and approaching a certain cone, it's quick feet, and then it's long feet. Quick feet, then it's long feet. So that might be an opportunity for a conditioning drill if we're talking about just preparing the person. Now, let me just write this down. So one conditioning drill that can be used is alternating between long steps and quick steps, period. Now the key would be I don't want to write that down, but the key would be, how do you make it specific to the sport? How do you initiate when they do the footsteps, the quick footsteps versus the long footsteps? And so maybe as a coach, what you can do is have them start at the baseline, the opposite baseline, and they've got to come to you, right? And so you can either put a hand up, or you can whistle. You probably start off with whistle first. They don't see it coming. Or you can go with the whistle. I like to do the whistle behind them. So I'll stand behind them as they're going, and they've got to go to the baseline. And so what you can do is whistle, and as you whistle, they'll switch to the other one. So it's stride, 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 quick feet. Stride, 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 quick feet. Stride, 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 quick feet. And they'll finish at the baseline. And then you can walk down, or you can just go visual stimulus. So then as a coach, they're standing on this baseline here, and now you're putting up a hand. So you're going right, left, or you can just, I would probably keep it simple. I'd go hand up, down. So up for long strides, down for, the quick steps, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to confuse them, but because you just want to keep it super simple. So you can have it up, down, or you can just have it up, put it back to your chest. Doesn't really matter. But something to signal go and something to signal switch. So that's one conditioning drill that I can pull out of that one possession. Let's see if there's anything else I can pull out of this. So maybe defensively. I think, and this is something I thought about for a while, which was, how about but making sure that you're timing your jumps. I had the girls for basketball doing this, and it looks silly to a degree, but not really. And what I did was, let's go to the 3-point line so I can see it. So what I had them doing was I had them starting in this semicircle, and they would alternate. I have cones up here, and we were doing closeouts essentially, right? So they would sprint out, do whatever. Sometimes I have them go around the cones, and sometimes I just have them run to the cone and come back, whether it be a shuffle or a back pedal or whatever. But one time when I was working with them for some conditioning early in the preseason, this is before preseason, um, I had them sprinting to the cone and then jumping, right? So you sprint to the cone and then you do a little bit of a jump. And it's just to prepare their nervous system and their body for being able to sprint, to transition from sprinting to then going in and jumping. So that would be a very good drill to incorporate somehow in practice. And I don't know, like you could go and use the cones too. You can have the cones up there, or again, you can have them going along the line, and this might be helpful, easier just from a transition standpoint. To waste less time. You don't have to set up cones and then put them back down. So maybe you don't even use cones and you just go auditorily. Just kind of like the first drill idea where you have everybody line up on the line and they're sprinting and then they jump, sprint, jump, like for a contest, and you're looking you're looking to see. I was going to say as a coach, but you're looking to see who's, when they're landing in the same spot from which they took off at. It'll be a very good way to tell if those people are probably going to be more at risk for causing some kind of defensive foul. Because if you're doing in this drill, if you're not landing in the same spot you took off from, chances are you're going to run into the shooter. So I think that could be very helpful. So that's another potential drill that someone can use. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else that you can use in here that could be useful. Oh, so the thing that I thought and just kind of sticks out to me is, I forget his name, KCP. So he's sprinting. So you could, if you wanted to, have people sprinting down the sideline for a shot, right? So that would be one potential shooting drill. And I know it's kind of silly, but like it's important too. So you can have the person coming down, sprinting as the ball's coming down, and sprinting to this corner area or the opposite corner area for a jump shot. Which is, I think, very helpful. You can even go on a loop too. If you want to just get a lot of volume and get a lot of shots up, you can have that person going. And this is the kind of like the 55-second drill, but minus the extra shot. It's just they shoot it. You probably would need another. You'd need a rebounder. You can use a shooting machine if you want to. Like that can help you get a lot of shots up. But you'd have the person shooting from the corner and getting the pass in the corner, but they'd have to go maybe to this line or to if you really wanted to get some conditioning in, you can have them go to the half court line and then sprint back. So you take the shot and you have it on delay so you have enough time. I haven't really worked it out in terms of how much time. You'd have to figure out how fast the kids are, but literally you'd have them go around the cone, come back, shoot, around the cone, come back, shoot. And if you wanted them to get a lot of quick shots in, just shorten the distance, right? So as they get used to it, I probably go shorter cone first, right? Just so that they can get shots up and they don't have to worry about the condition aspect of it. And what would make me change my mind in terms of distance, not change my mind, but what would make me extend the distance would be one, if I want to just kind of change it up and work on conditioning anyway, or if they're really good and they're making the shots, well, now we add the conditioning component to it by having to go out further, and now you need more timing. Suddenly you can't kind of like lag. Whereas here you can probably rest a little bit because you see it coming, you can sprint over, whatever, depending on how you time it, whatever. But there's more of a conditioning component to it on the legs and the heart, which would make it more translatable to the sport, especially if you're coming down and you have to just kind of fade to the sideline or drift to the corner for a shot and you're getting the pass from there from the shooting machine, would be a good idea. So that's another drill that I thought you can do. And I just want to put that in my phone too. You can use a drift to the corner shooting drill for conditioning and use a shooting machine and have cones close to half court for the shooter to go around, comma, but you can also have the shooter go around cones maybe closer to the corner to begin with, period. All right, got that in there. But I think that those are some things that I'll keep my nose. It's itchy. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I can get from this one play. It's like 30 seconds of a play of a 10-minute video, but I just think it's helpful. If we're talking about a dribbling drill, you can work on the specific drill that he just did, which was he's going not only from half court, but he's crossing it over behind the back and, basically in stride and then laying it up. So that's one way to do it. And you can probably come with a variety of finishes. You can have them finishing with the right hand with the reverse. You can have them finishing with the left hand with the reverse, which is still possible. You can have them finishing. You can play the ball off of the backboard, or you can have them not play it off the backboard. I mean, the possibilities are endless in terms of finishing. You can have them not finish over here. You can have them finish on the strong side of the rim. It can be, a low finish. It can be high off the backboard finish. I mean, you in reality, you probably would want to vary it up. And if I was going to do a drill, or if I was going to do this, and I would have them do a lot of repetitions, I can probably just switch up the shot or the finish rather, right? You can have them do a floater or a push shot. You can have them do an underhand shot. You can have them do a reverse. You can switch it up mid-drill, which could be a little confusing to begin with. You might want to just go block first. I can probably just go block first by just going, all right, well, I'll just do for this particular day, we're just doing here, or on this rim, right? All right, let's go. So I would say, okay, on this side of the slot, we're doing, a reverse. On the other side, we're not doing reverse. We're finishing with a floater, and then the same thing on the other side. So one side's one type of finish, the other side's another type of finish. And that's one way that you can go about it. So that would be kind of cool too. And then, let me go back. This is something I just thought of too. And so now I'm looking at, from a plyometric standpoint, what is he doing? All right. So he's going, slide, boom. And is he taking off with 1 foot? Yes. He's taking off with 1 foot, landing with 2. But not only is he doing that, right? He's basically, shoulders are essentially parallel to the rim. All right, so he takes off from there with 1 foot, but then lands essentially on the other side of the semicircle. That's not only a 180-degree jump, right? But that's a 180-degree jump where you're not landing in the spot that you took off from. So, I mean, at some point, you're going to have to work on those type of drills. So you can start off with just jumping and landing, right? That could be one form of plyometric drill. That would be the base of it, because everyone's jumping up and down. The next step would be, the next iteration or phase would be jumping and landing off, jumping off 2 and landing 1. Then you would jump off 1 and land on 1. That would be the hardest. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's not very specific to this particular play, but it'll be helpful in the scheme of things. But ultimately, you want to get to the point where you're jumping off, you're taking off on one foot and landing adjacent, not like 180-degree turn mid-air on the other side, because it's happening. It's literally happening in the game. It's a possibility that you can do it. So if you prepare your body for that, you're in better shape. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And then if we're talking about plyometrics, right? Let's see. Let's play it a little bit. I just want to see something real quick. Okay, so nothing there other than Mr. LeBron James going. But I did mention kind of timing your jumps. And then, so one way that I like to do time, another way that I used it, and I forgot how I set it up when I did it, but I also, along the lines of the 5 driving lanes and having the cones there, what I did have, and I forgot how I did it. I wish I can remember now. But what I did was I had a teammate at where the cone was, right? And so what the person did, which was the people that were inside, I think I did it in 2 groups. So the people that were in the semicircle and the people that were on deck were both on the court. And so I had 5 along the lane lines, and I had the people that were going through the drill, and they had to do X amount, right? So they would, let's say I had them do 10. So they would go here, boom, boom, boom. I call it star drill. Boom, boom. That's 1. And then they would go through it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 2. And each time they got to one of their teammates, they would time their jump and they would just high five each other midair. It had to be midair. So they're working on their braking mechanics. They're working on the timing. They have to watch the person to know when they're going to jump, which is very helpful. So that's something that they could do. They could do, or someone can add to conditioning as well. But I was thinking about that, and then another thing I was thinking about was like just jump shots. Most people are jumping, right, with 2 feet. Hi, baby. Hey, Ava. Most people are jumping with 2 feet. Huh? I know, I'm just doing a little work. And so they can jump with 2 feet. I got thrown off. They can work on jumping with 2 feet, and you can hold a medicine ball. You don't necessarily have to hold a basketball. Or you can sit right there if you want to. I'm gonna go to bed in a moment. But you can work on jumping, maybe, I don't know, 2 foot jumping and landing. You can do it with just statically, where you're in position and you're just jumping. But what would make the most sense is pivoting into your shot, doing a banana cut into your shot, doing a 1-2, doing a hop back. Those are different actions that you can use from a plyometric standpoint to prepare your body for shooting jump shots as well. Because typically when you're taking shots, you're not necessarily going to be taking them stationary, not always. Now there's always the chance, there is the chance that you will, but even so, you're sprinting back from defense, or you just went back and forth. So there's always the chance that you're going to be somewhat tired. You're not going to be 100%, recovered before you take a shot. So that's something to think about. So the 1-2 step into the shot, or a hop into the shot, a side step, which is very popular now, or a step back. Those things are popular. So take the ball out of the equation. Run, jump. Kind of like what you would do with that drill that I was talking about earlier, where you're lining up on the baseline, but you can do it literally in one small space. So you can do that in a weight room if you need to. If you want to use the court, you can. But as a strength coach, you might want to monitor how much jumping they're doing going into preseason specifically. I would save a lot of this jumping for the off season, and then maybe take about 3 or 4 weeks of just kind of deloading some of that jumping. You don't want to have them doing all that jumping going into the season. You may want to have them have at least a week or two of rest, but I'd rather peak with the jumping, maybe a 4 weeks peak 4 weeks before. I think that's how I want to say it. I want to have 1 4-week cycle where you peak, and then another 4-week cycle where it's basically downloaded, you not doing the same amount of volume of jumping on that 4-week cycle before they do start the season or the preseason. Ideally the preseason, because the preseason they're just going to be running. They'll probably be scrimmaging. You don't know, if you're a strength coach, you don't know what the hell they're doing. So I wouldn't know what the hell the coach is doing, and not in a bad way. It's just you. It's hard to prepare. It's not like they're going to send you a practice plan. If you're a strength coach, they're definitely not sending you the practice plan. And sometimes they change it week to week based on what it is they want to do and what they want to cover, and what the strengths and weaknesses are of the team. So better to just be safe than sorry and have them recovered and fully ready for the season, and not going overboard with the with conditioning of jumping, rather, or with jumping or conditioning, either way. Like, you want them fully recovered, but you're recovered enough to get through it, but still at a high level in terms of preparation. But those are some of the things that I think I kind of pulled from this. Let me just watch it one more time and see if there's anything else I can pull from this. What else can I pull from it? Crossover, we can work on crossing over. So if we're talking about dribbling drills, having a specific stimulus for the crossover instead of just crossing over arbitrarily. I had the idea of using a metronome and dialing it up or dialing it down based on what you want to do, on how much you want to get after it. But there's an external source dictating when you cross over. So I think that's super, super helpful versus someone just going out there and just doing it whenever they want to. It doesn't quite help out. And sometimes to have somebody else in front of you while you're doing it may not be the best use of time. So you can get everybody working at the same time with the metronome. And I'm just thinking, like, if I have one court, which we had over at Emerson College, like, you have to use what you got. And so because you have that one court, you have to be very creative. And so that's one way you can use it. With all the basketballs you got, have everybody going. The coaches can watch them and see who's messing up and who needs some extra help. Make a note of it and just say, hey, subtly say, hey, I saw that you were having trouble while you're working on this drill. These are some things I want you to work on, blah, blah, blah. And there you go. Let's see. We'll keep playing it. See if there's anything else I can do. I see. Ooh, that was way too far. I saw how Kuzma was kind of sprinting to get into the play. Let me back up just a little bit. He's sprinting to get into the play. Now, if we're just going to kind of hypothesize what could happen, let's say LeBron James misses a shot. Well, Kyle Kuzma's coming in to then rebound the ball. So another drill that you can use is running in and catching. And what we used to do when Chris was working at Emerson is we would do that ball toss and catch onto a box. It's a pretty complicated drill, but very, very helpful for ball sports where it requires hand-eye coordination. In this case, hand-eye and feet coordination. So one way you can do it, like in basketball, they throw the ball off you throw the ball off of the backboard, but typically you'll have the person in front of you doing it, or you can do it yourself. Ideally, you'd have somebody else do it so you can't really predict where it's going to come off of the backboard. That would be ideal. You can also, let's see, in volleyball, they have the ball suspended above, like this. I saw one contraption where they had the ball suspended above you. So that's another way you can kind of work on it. Like it's the height that you can jump, and you can make it specific to that person. I don't know if it's like something someone just kind of jerry rigged and made themselves, or if that's like a legit, piece of equipment that you can purchase. But that's another option too. If you want a consistency of height for jumping, but the timing aspect of it. Oh no, you can still do the timing. So for the timing aspect of that, you can again use the metronome for jumping as well. It's like when they take off. So that's another option. Or you don't need a metronome. You can just clap. I mean, that's another way you can use it as well. You don't necessarily need it for that. And again, you don't need a metronome for dribbling. If you're a coach and you're working individually with somebody, you don't need the metronome. You can just use your hands to clap to initiate when you want them to do it. And that's another way for it to work. Let's see. I think that's everything that I can think of right now. All right, let me back up a little. So that's something about that footwork that I really like about it. It's like a plant, but so a lot of the basketball trainers will call it a drop step, where you're taking one step, in this case with the right foot, but then after that you're balancing out your center of gravity, right? So instead of your center of gravity shifted basically on one foot, you're creating more balance, and it makes you more explosive too. So you can work on that drop step essentially. So you're literally it's like hopscotch. So you have 1 foot, and then you go down to 2 feet. So that's another option. And you can start with the right foot and work on it, and you can start on the left foot. You can literally have them doing hopscotch, or you can have them going from, sideline to sideline, or from baseline to half court. If you want to build up work capacity, you can go from, baseline to baseline. But I mean, I think it's a little ridiculous to do that consistently, to go baseline to baseline. It's just a lot of jumping. But that's another way to work on technique for the feet, because this type of footwork is very common, and it'll help people become more athletic, because you go from essentially being on this 1 foot to then having your balance with both feet shoulder width apart. So now you can go either left or right, whereas if you do the opposite, you're basically deciding which side you're going to be on, and you're less balanced and less more predictable. Boom. So, and so that's what we got. So I am done with that. That was literally just like 15 seconds. All right, so let's stop that. Stop.